Hello and welcome to World of Tanks with me, Merimo. Today we're looking at a replay that was sent in to me by TazziTiger of the Asia server, and it's one of his games where he was in a 3-man platoon with Hexa and Blackberry. They're all in the same clan. You'll notice that TazziTiger's not got his clan tags on, but that's more to what he described as being conditions within the clan. Apparently they were moving from Wolfpack Hunters all the way over to just a wolf pack. So that's why he's not got tags, but they're all on the same TeamSpeak server. They're all on the same clan. And it's an encounter match at tier 8 on the Sacred Valley map. First thing I just want to talk about is that he's got a very, what I would call, interesting ammo choice. He's got 14 high explosive shells, which personally I wouldn't go for on the T-37. Just because the fact that the T-37 has got such a small caliber gun. Having such a small caliber gun means that even if you're coming up against heavy tanks that your APCR shells can't penetrate, your HE shells aren't going to do more than 1 or 2 damage. I mean, I might be tempted to have 3, but 14 seems quite a lot. But he starts the game off by going all the way over to the hill on the enemy side of the map, and this is a position that I generally choose to go to as well. It's quite strategic because it prevents the enemy from having a sniping setup point where they can reset the cap on the encounter mode, and it also means that your sniper spot on your other side of the map is going to be safe from the enemy team. So he comes up here with I think it's Blackberry? Yes, Blackberry in the MT25, and instantly spots 4-5 enemy tanks, and so he gets behind a boulder and he sits and waits for any of his allies to come over with him. And you'll notice by looking at the map that absolutely no one other than him and Blackberry have come over here. Now, TazziTiger's doing his best here to use a peekaboo kind of method, and he notices a T-21 come behind Blackberry, puts a shell into him, and ultimately decides, nah, it's game over here, and retreats. And this was possibly a little bit too late. You know, he's down to 120 hit points, which means that it might have been a bit late to retreat, but he does get away, so that's always good. You will notice as well that he's not going quite as fast as a normal T-37. That's because this isn't fully upgraded, but I don't think that really matters for this game. So, you know, you've got usual setup. It looks like all of their team have gone over to that hill, and our heavy tanks on this team are starting to work around the B line. Now, generally, if this were the usual setup, I would say that Tazzi's team has got the overall advantage, because the heavy tanks are going to push quite easily through the B line, and they'll be able to get over onto the sniping position that Tazzi was trying to take. Now, unfortunately, you will notice that a KV-85 and a few other heavy tanks on Tazzi's team have decided to stay back. Now, immediately this isn't a problem. Tazzi's heavy tanks take on quite a bit of a punching, but eventually one of the SPGs takes out the Oni, and that causes a massive ripple effect throughout the entire team. And then it's just a matter of time before every single heavy tank up there starts to die. So Tazzi, who's finally started to get back into the game now, has reversed all the way back over to pretty much his spawn and uses a small building here as cover so that he can backwards and forwards, same sort of peekaboo method, he can start to fire over. He takes a quick, I don't really know what to say, he takes a quick guesstimate about where the enemy team was, and personally I wouldn't have done that, just because I fear that the enemy team would spot me when I fired. You'll also notice here that he's auto-aiming, which again I probably wouldn't do, just because auto-aiming, it doesn't allow you to aim for weak spots, and that when the enemy tank disappears, your auto-aim disengages and you're not sure whether or not you were still aiming at them, and so Tazzi switches targets to the T-21. Now you'll notice as well that he's switched to high explosive to deal with the Oni because he wasn't penetrating. Again, like I said earlier, low caliber gun, he's not going to do much damage even if he hits them with HE. However, it ends up working quite well, because it's about now that Tazzi decides that things aren't going so well over on this flank, and he decides to get the hell out of dodge. And he spends a few minutes umming and ahhing. You know, he's looking over onto the enemy hill. He's looking to see where the enemy team are, to see if he can spot anything. 87 giving the usual, oh, light tanks do this, do that. And he's one of the usual crybabies who just does nothing but complain. And sure, Tazzi's not all the way up forwards, but on 120 hit points, I don't think you can really complain about that. Tazzi watches how the Stirring Meal kills the AT-15, the M41 Walker Bulldog as well. That would have been a good tank to go spotting with, but you know, even though he's on higher health than Tazzi, he continues to sit back behind the AT-7. And now we've got a Panther threatening, and Tazzi finally decides now's the time to move. And so Tazzi begins to move out. And I'm not sure whether Tazzi just thought about retreating, or whether it was at this point that Tazzi was also thinking that he was going to go after the SPGs. But what he decides to do is he goes all the way down the one line, and then he starts to go round to the artillery positions. Now, this is a particularly good move, because not only will the enemy team be ignoring Tazzi, because, you know, he's a light tank on 120 hit points. Like an Oni is really going to be scared of a T-37 on 120 hit points. But also, it means that he's going to be able to take out artillery, and artillery can be extremely powerful assets to a team. Now, unfortunately, the artillery on Tazzi's team haven't really done all that much. They've got a kill each, except for the M12, but on the other team, the M12 has got 2 kills, and the Crusader's got 1. Which kind of shows that, you know, their artillery has done some massive work. Now, neither team is really going forwards. You know, they're 8-8 is kind of a deadlock, really. Until there, you get the artillery destroying the Oni, and that's kind of destroyed their battering ram. They've kind of lost their momentum now, the enemy team. And then the Panther goes down, and now they've not got anything left spotting. And now it is literally artillery, a tank destroyer, and a light tank. And the light tank's not been spotted in ages. Now this is where the high explosives that Tazzi has got come into play. He sees the 2 artillery at the moment, and he starts putting shells in. Sets one of them on fire, and the fire kills it. That's why I always carry a fire extinguisher on an SPG. Sure, you know, if you get spotted in an SPG, you might be over, but that might have been the saving grace for the GW Panther. Now, at this point, Tazzi has got 2 kills, and he's done 722 damage. Now that he's killed both of the artillery, this means that the scores are looking a lot more favourable for his team, 12-8. I mean, imagine if the enemy team had destroyed his arty. This would now be a 12-11 game, but instead it's 12-9 because the enemy team's light tanks haven't had the same opportunity that Tazzi has. So Tazzi is going to the one position he knows enemy tanks are going to be, up on the hill. He has a little bit of a spaz, but he manages to find the M12. Now, he doesn't quite manage to do the same technique he was using back on the last 2 artillery, where he was constantly moving to throw off their aim. But the M12 wasn't interested in aiming, and so he donked the shot, and only managed to take off Tazzi's tracks. Hexa in the M12 manages to take out the artillery, and Tazzi's feeling pretty good. There's only 1 enemy tank left on the team, and the AT-7 is now bitching. Light tanks come out to kill arty. Useless cowards. Which, interesting, seeing as the T-37 has 2 kills, the Bulldog has 1, and you and the AT-7 have 1. If you were all as good as you were saying, why don't you have all the kills and they have none? IS gives out an interesting idea to start capping and lure out the J-Panther, but Tazzi's already in a position where he can spot him. Now this is the one thing I would say Tazzi could have done differently. If he'd have been firing APCR, he probably would have penetrated the J-Panther. Instead, he just keeps firing AP and ends up bouncing and eventually gets killed. Now, even though he has been killed, the J-Panther is still spotted until 4 seconds after his death, and that allows the Walker Bulldog to come in and finish off the J-Panther. So overall, that was a pretty good game. If we just go and look at the overall statistics of the game, well, post-game, it you'll see that Tazzy managed to get a second class mastery badge, the spotter medal, arsonist from killing off the JW Panther, and the fire for effect. Looking at the team score, we can also see that Tazzy managed to get a grand total of 1,344 spotting damage. Now, I'm not sure about you, but if he's been doing 1,344 damage, that tells me he's probably not being a coward, which the AT7, who managed to do under the amount of damage that Tazzy did and get less kills, managed to do. To his credit, the AT7 managed to get 1,399 spotting, but if you're in an AT7, it's really not that important. Congratulations to the IS as well on Tazzy's team. Amazing game, 2,330 damage and 980 experience. Congratulations to him. He did really well. Looking at the enemy team, I don't really think I can say congratulations to any of them. They didn't really do that well. Possibly the Crusader did quite well, but I'm always hesitant to say congratulations to artillery just because, you never know if it was luck or whether it was skill. Moving over to the detailed report, we can see that Tazzy's accuracy might have been off, but I can probably put that down to the fact that his crew might not have been perfect. You can see that Tazzy did quite a bit of damage, took 3 hits, and that he's managed to do quite well spreading damage, damaging 5 enemy tanks, killing 2. He also manages to spot 3 tanks during that game, and managed to survive for 9 minutes out of the 9 minutes and 30 seconds of the battle. So, thank you very much, Tazzy, for sending that game in. I greatly enjoyed watching it. The one thing I would say would be, don't be so afraid to use the APCR ammo. I know it's expensive, but in the position that you were in with that J-Panther, you probably would have been able to kill it if you'd have been willing to use just 1 APCR round. And although that might have eaten into your credits amount a little bit, it might have put you up onto the first class mastery badge. So, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and thank you very much to Tazzy for sending that in. If anyone else wants to send me in a replay, I'd be more than happy to look at it. My contact information is down in the description. And if you enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up and a subscribe. And I'll see you next time.